Hi, my name's Richard Gevers. I'm the Deputy Head of the Digital Services Unit in the Presidency. Yeah, so I think obviously when you're starting to do something new or starting to make a change, you look out for partners who know what they're doing, who've done the thing before. And through a series of connections, we were connected through the CDPI to Dan and the team. And really from the start, it was this idea of just being custodianed and supported by someone who's done this before. And then the more that we collaborated, the more it became clear that this was a key partner for us. I mean, it's hard to remember actually how long it's been going, because it feels like CDPI and especially Dan has been there from the beginning. I think he was there before even I came into the picture. But certainly when I joined the drafting team of the roadmap last year, November, Dan was already a key part of it. And you know what's really powerful is that people in the CDPI are people that have the experience, the knowledge. And as I say, this roadmap for us represents a really important moment where, coming out of COVID, there's been a realization across government that transformation and next generation government has to be more than just the job of the IT department. And so having CDPI working in the room with our government and non-government colleagues and building that literacy and starting to translate has been really great. And I think so from even before I joined, people like Dan and Emmanuel and others were supporting civil servants, explaining concepts. I mean, obviously these are very intelligent people, but not necessarily tech orientated. And I think, yeah, from there it's just grown in a role in terms of advisory support. Yeah. CDPI's role was crucial in even convening workshops when we were co-designing the input that would go into the strategy. And so bringing in other partners that showed other government journeys. Dan has his own government journey that he could show with the Argentina and the photo of the president opening his driver's license, and these sorts of things really made sense to the people in the room. And so I think the whole thing about milestones, which is our initiative that's emerged out of the roadmap and represents our universal services channel and the DPI stack that we're implementing. The logo is one person, one government, one touch. But I think also one of the key things that advisors like CDPI have helped with is that it's really all of society approach. And so that idea of there's so much to do inside, but there's also so much to do in the co-design, co-creation of this path forward. And we're seeing some of the fruits of that at the Global DPI Summit now. Yeah. So one of the key roles of the CDPI has been to lead up our group of international advisors. Dan is the head of that. And that is really critical, because that's allowed us to bring in expertise from within CDPI, but from all over the place, and really talk to the people across the world that know how to do this, which meant that we were able to get get into conversations to the point where in less than 3 months, we've built a national scale universal service channel that is DPGs called milestones that we launched yesterday. Obviously it's an app, but a website, it could be a kiosk and a service center. It's got DPGs from India, from New Zealand, from UK, from Brazil, from local in there. And I think so the guidance from input into the roadmap and then into how to start to really deal with the implementation of what the roadmap asked was a key part of CDPI's support. Convening advice from places that we could get from around the world, and also just the weekly meetings that Anthony and Dan and others were on, because all of that technical support and advice is really powerful. The connections are powerful. The ability to talk to people who've done the work, the ability to have people like yourselves in the room But there's also just something about on a Wednesday when we have our catch-up call, just being, this is really hard sometimes, and having someone else on the other end of the line that says, yeah, I know. And some, you know, that sort of thing is sometimes as powerful as everything else. It's just that you've got people you're walking the journey with, you know? And they've done it before, and that's the nice thing, because we're in it. We don't see the other side yet. You know, they've been in it and come through the other side. And that's very encouraging when some of the times are much harder, yeah. I mean, I think one of the powers of CDPI is different experiences and different regions. And so you have a multifaceted team. And I think that you're able to rapidly share lessons, the role in the playbook for the roadmap, and like create these outputs that allow governments like ours to look through and experience with, but also you're very open to feedback. And I think that feedback helps to facilitate the relationships between different groups or different governments trying to do this thing together. And I think CDPI playing that glue role, that like sort of bringing people in, you know, into convening the same space is really appreciated. I think on a personal level, Dan is a friend, but someone also that's done an amazing thing. And so, you know, it's someone to both learn from, but also walk a journey with. Yeah, just his ability to empathize and hear, like listen, is very powerful. So personally, I really appreciate that. As the DSU, I think it's also been really critical to have someone have an eye on the future. Sometimes we get too focused on the present. To also have an eye on this sort of group of advisors that we haven't leveraged properly yet, and we will getting better at. But you know, those sorts of things, I think convening the right spaces and comfortable spaces to have hard conversations or talk through the designs of things, you know, these have all been things I really personally appreciate. So I think one of the things we want to do as South Africa is we're not trying to create something that South Africa creates and sells to the continent. And so working with you, Anthony, and others, like one of the things we really hope we can do with CDPI is start to convene communities of practice inside and outside of governments that are working on similar problems, whether it's funding or governance or which DPGs we're working on. But we really see a vision in SADC, in EAC, in sharing lessons, in sort of being communities inside government that can talk to each other, understanding how to set like localized and Africanized DPGs in a way that's collaborative, where we're reusing and not trying to build from scratch all the time, but also making them fit our context. And we share context in SADC, we share context in the continent. And so I think one of the things I'm most excited for is for CDPI, and especially the work that CDPI is doing on the continent and with the continent, to be something that helps us connect. You know, in my old organization, we said as Africans, we always seem to meet in New York or in Europe, and not in our own countries. And I think I really want that to not be something that follows that pattern this time. I want to be us meeting each other in our hometowns and saying, hey, I'm in government doing DPI, you're in government doing DPI. We're looking at doing this sort of use case. We're working in social protection. What's your experience with X-Road been like? Where you know, those sort of things are so powerful. And then the non-government community of developers, but also civil society, private sector, from all angles that are going to be working with us. How do they connect to the people in and their kind of counterparts in the continents and form these communities of practice? So that's a big ask, but that's what I'm really hoping CDPI can help us with. What I would tell them is absolutely, let's get talking, talk to CDPI, connect us, get CDPI to convene us into the space and guide us as we sort of decide what next generation government's going to look like in a way that is African.